Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce out. Another fantastic goal by Marco Royce. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond compare.
Jetzt kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!
I don't know. Are we going to talk about soccer today? Because
I
guess
we should.
I mean, we're like 30 minutes in. I can keep talking about whatever.
Always good catching up, though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. It's fantastic. Had a lovely time chatting with you guys.
Likewise.
We'll bully our editor to put that in at the end of the show, I think. Whoever it is. Anyway. Welcome back to Dortmund Dispatch. Today I'm joined by Brian and Joey. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. It's been a hot minute, but life be life, and so it's been kind of hard, but I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here to talk about a win. Some good stuff to talk about, so I'm excited.
Yeah, Brian's one of the OGs of the podcast, but if you're new from this season, you may not remember him.
It's been a month, yeah. It's crazy.
Oh, he hasn't been gone that long.
I don't know.
No,
it's been a month. It's been a month.
Glad to see you back. I'm happy to be back too, and always happy to talk about a win. That's hopefully the trend is looking like more wins. So let's keep it going, and let's keep having the podcast where we talk about wins.
I know, seriously, right? After last season, we need a few.
Brian maybe shouldn't have been welcomed back because I think we've won every game bar the Juventus game since he's been gone. But let's talk about Dortmund's 2-0 win over Mainz. An away day that many Borussia Dortmund fans often have dreaded in recent years. Borussia Dortmund put up a dominant performance in many ways. So the XG that was put up by ESPN Plus and I believe the Bundesliga World Feed kind of showed it being a lot closer than a lot of the online sources had it, where it was about 1.5 to about 0.5, 0.6, depending on your source. Whatever source Brian uses had 1.44 to 0.48. FBref has it right around that number with 1.4 to 0.5. But did you guys feel like this was a dominant performance?
I would say, yeah. Honestly, I felt it was, well, let's maybe not use the word dominant. I would say controlled. Because at the end of the day, this is a team that over the course of however long we've been doing this pod at this point, like we've said that they don't control games well. And this game was very much controlled. Like, yeah, you had certain instances where Mainz came in and had a shot. I mean, you had the Paul Nabel shot that came off the post. You had a couple free shots in the second half where perhaps they could have marked their man closer. But this is a significant step up, I would say. They were defending with purpose. The tackles were precise, especially Rami Bensebaini, I think, really excelled in that. I mean, having Nico Schlotterbeck back obviously helps a ton as well. The defense looks far more settled. Going forward, they went forward with purpose. It wasn't haphazard passes. Everything seemed like it was telegraphed. Well, I won't say everything because there's always some loose passes, right? But majority of passes, I would say, felt very telegraphed. So I think it was a very controlled and clean performance. That's what I would say.
I think that's a really good assessment. And I think controlled is a good word. Dominant would make me think that this could have been a 4-0 victory, especially once we were up a man after that red card. But I do think controlled is a good word to describe this one. And I think one of the things that I like best about this match is, I believe that we saw the best goal of the season so far in this match. It wasn't a banger from outside of the box like we saw Adeyemi hit last weekend, but it was right after that. It was Mainz shot that kind of hit off the post. After that sequence finished and Kobel had the ball, and it was a very quick counterattack. Kobel got it to Jan Couto, who I think passed it up to Adeyemi, who then got it to Bayer. Bayer had a very clever kind of flick over to Brandt, who set it up perfectly for Danny Svensson. And much of that was like one-touch football. And I have to give it up to the team because that's 6 players that are directly involved in the build-up and finishing of that goal. And I mean, that is the kind of teamwork that you absolutely love seeing. and that made me really happy. Certainly excited to see Adeyemi get another goal as well. And then also Gregor Kobel with some of his vision with a couple of these long passes, especially getting that ball up the field to take advantage of Adeyemi's sprint, to draw that red card off of Zetner. I mean, that's the kind of run that I think we're going to need this season. And of course, that whether you call it lucky or unlucky, getting the red card, I mean, that was essentially a breakaway. And maybe Adeyemi converts that if Zetner doesn't come out of his box, but he came out of his box and we got to play up a man for the rest of the match. Another just small takeaway from this one too is that it's an away game, and away matches in the Bundesliga are never easy. And the fact that we got another clean sheet in this game is another great takeaway. And Gregor Kobel definitely needs some credit for a couple really nice saves he had too.
Yeah, I want to say in particular, because you mentioned Mainz, I feel like Mainz has definitely become like a very strong barometer for Dortmund, like when it comes to seeing how the team's doing, because obviously you have that game where, you know, we did draw against them and lost out on the championship. So there's that psychological aspect with that. But then there was also that game in the season after where Terzic was still there, and I watched that game live when we played Mainz, and we were so stale. And this isn't a bad Mainz team. This is a team that's playing in Europe. They have some really good players with Kai Sano and Paul Nabel, already mentioned earlier. They have threat, and to go their away game, which we've complained about numerous times that Dortmund don't always do well with. It was an away game at Mainz. We kind of like blocked all that out and just did really well. It was very controlled. I do want to give some flowers for the second goal as well, that Adeyemi ended up putting away, because I think that, for me personally, was the best goal of the season, simply because once again, it was so controlled. Like, everything was intentional about it. Like, I feel like in other seasons past, like when you had Brandt in that situation when he was right outside the box, I feel like he would have just shot wide. But instead, he passed it back to Adeyemi and he put it away so deftly. It was like both of them just controlled everything, and it kind of, I guess, emphasized both of their best qualities, because obviously you have the explosiveness and the pace, now we can say the finishing of Adeyemi, and the creativity of Brandt to, you know, just keep himself open to actually being able to pull the ball back for Adeyemi. So I think honestly it emphasized everything we wanted to see from the attack, and it really shows that everyone is improving under Kovac right now, especially this season. So I was very happy with it.
Yeah, Mainz are 7th by expected goals differential to start the season. So even if, like, on paper the results haven't been there, the performances have them very much in the competition for European places this year. So Dortmund has actually played 7, 8, and 9 in terms of expected goals difference teams, and Dortmund should be, in theory, one of the harder games. So, like, in that small sample size, like, Dortmund has been dominant, but those teams are still performing fairly well in the underlying numbers, despite having one of their more difficult games. So while you can look at it and say Dortmund haven't had, like, the hardest games yet, and that is true, like, on paper there are better teams to play in Freiburg. I think we haven't played Frankfurt, Leverkusen, Leipzig, and obviously Munich. But Borussia Dortmund have right now what would be their highest expected goals difference in the entire time FBref has publicly available data, which is around 8-9 years. Like, this team is looking not necessarily dominant, but they're looking very competent. They're not a couple weeks into the season, I was like, okay, like, we're looking, it's been 3 games, but we're right where Leverkusen were when they won the league. Obviously, like, that was a historically down year for Bayern Munich, even though they still had the better statistics. But Dortmund's not there right now, but Dortmund is right where, like, I would expect the minimum performance for them to be. And this is in a season we've started kind of with a little bit of the chaos in the back line. Like, Ryerson's been missing for some games, our best defender, and I would argue our best and most important player. Nico Schlotterbeck has been out injured. Some of our depth at center back has been out injured. And we've kind of been figuring out the front line a little bit. Niko Kovac, like at the start of the season, we were like, I don't know, this guy might be a little too strict. He's trying to force the system he likes best. And he's gotten away from that in the last 3 weeks, and we've seen 3 very good performances in that time. So do you think from what you've seen, like, are you starting to trust and believe in this team to be like at least competent for the full season? Because I know after 5 games the last 3 or 4 years, I don't think we'd be able to say that. And right now, that's kind of where I am.
I'm in the same place, I would say. I think they've shown enough for me to be like, I think they have their shit together. They seem very fluid. And once again, like, I feel like everything about what they do is intentional. And we have not been able to say that in the last couple seasons. I feel like we've gone off of a lot of individual quality at times, which is something we've talked about on numerous occasions. But I think here we are really playing as a unit. And I think a lot of credit has to go to Niko Kovac for that, because I know, like, there's been some back and forth about whether or not he's the right fit. I'm convinced right now at this very point in time that he is absolutely the right fit, and that we're playing really good football under him. It's entertaining to watch. It has a little bit of everything we've kind of been looking for. The stability of, I guess, the Terzic sides that got us to almost the title and to the Champions League. I know there's other factors there. Yes, of course.
Stability was the word that kind of.
But there was at least defensive stability. I feel like he did bring that sort of defensive stability at times. But regardless, I do feel like there's both that explosiveness that we're accustomed to with Dortmund from seasons past, and now a level of defensive stability. And those are the 2 things, obviously, you need to do well. And I think that we're doing it well, so there's nothing to complain about, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you, Brian. And if I think about what manager who's out there that I want to see managing Borussia Dortmund, I'm in terms of who's available, who might come in the next year, even, I'm really not sure. And the football that we have played under Niko Kovac, some of it started at the end of last season, and that has carried into this season. It is certainly promising enough from my perspective that I'm more than satisfied with the job that he's currently doing. Of course, if form takes a big downward swing, that could change. But like Brian said, the team is looking pretty good. There are some shaky moments in the Juventus match. It was, that was a wild half, and that every once in a while, it's soccer, it's Borussia Dortmund. You have these crazy, unpredictable matches. I think that there is a lot of, and I know I'm going to use the word again, Eli, but there is a lot of defensive stability, I think. But there's one little problem that I haven't fully identified yet, but it's, if you look at the matches in all competitions that we've played thus far this season, we've conceded 7 goals, and 6 of those goals have come from 3 instances where we conceded twice in a span of 3 minutes. So there's certainly there's something going on where this is not an infallible defense, and when it breaks, it definitely breaks. But I feel good going into some of these matches that the floodgates aren't going to open, and just seeing the fact that we've had 4 consecutive Bundesliga matches at least that weren't just wins, but they were also clean sheets. I think that does say something about how the back line is managed, especially since we've only now had 2 matches with Nico Schlotterbeck back. Of course, he looks like he has wiped off the rust quite quickly, which is wonderful.
There was never any rust.
Yeah, as I say, but there's been some changes in the back line and in the personnel. And despite those changes, we've still seen some pretty good performances back there.
Yeah, so there's a couple things with that I want to talk about where, I was getting a little bit of disagreement with Brian's use of defensive stability under Terzic, because we were still conceding over 1 XG a game at times even up at like 1.3, 1.5. I think in his last two campaigns we were at those marks, and that to me is not good enough in the Bundesliga. Like I've said on this show, like every year we've done it at the end of the season, that our expectation should be to concede around 30 xg per campaign. Right now we're on pace to concede under that, and like part of that is like those top teams are where you concede a bit more of that, but like overall we're playing under Terzic, you were playing much more like high variance football, and that's why I disagree with the term stability, because when you concede over 1 xg, you're likely to concede one or two goals. And like Joey, to your point, like there is a bit of a statistical anomaly. Like when you concede a goal, you're more likely in the next 5 minutes to score or concede a goal. Whatever team you are, like that is a weird anomaly that exists. Whether that's like teams seeing the ball go in and so they get a little more attacking, or they don't pay attention. Like that is a broad thing that exists in football for a variety of reasons, you could say. So like, well, part of it is like the team has been prone to mistakes. Like I think the team, after they've conceded in a couple instances, have kind of gotten a little bit wonky and have made some dumb decisions that we've broken down and kind of spoken about why. I think generally this team is playing lower variance football, and they are putting themselves in a position to win pretty much every single week against at least like mid-table opposition in the Bundesliga. And if this team does that, then we can say positive things about them that we haven't been able to say in the entire history of this show, which is like, are we in our third or fourth season now? Like, it's been a while, and like if we just continue on at this pace, fall off a little bit against the better teams, but like we also haven't played. I don't think we've played Augsburg this year. We haven't played Hamburg. We've played Heidenheim, which is a terrible team, but like there are bad teams left for us to play, and we can maybe like stat pad a little bit more than them. Like we've had some performances that like statistically we've had better opportunities than maybe like Bayern has. But I would also say that this team like is very efficient. Like we don't there have been moments where we've taken a lot of like bad shots, but like largely this team is doing what Brian talked about, where like Julian Brandt plays that extra pass, and we find Svensson at like the back post for a tap, and we find Karim Adeyemi for a big chance. And like they do things like that, and like Sabitzer especially is a guy I've said in years past, like under Nuri Sahin, he was our leading shot taker pretty much. And part of that was like Guirassy wasn't fit for the first couple months. But in those first couple months under Sahin, you were looking at 3 Sabitzer shots from probably an average distance of 22, 23 yards out. And what is Marcel Sabitzer not doing a lot of this year? By my eye test, I will pull it up for you guys to see if I am incorrect, but it doesn't feel like he's shooting a ton, and maybe part of that is we're winning, but it does feel like his shots per 90, I have it up now. Yeah, they're down by about 0.38 per 90. Like, that is a massive drop. That is a 33% drop. And, like, that is an incredible difference. And like last year, they were down on the year before by about 50%. So if you look at that first campaign from Sabitzer, granted he was playing a different role, but still a lot of his shots, even in that year, were from distance. And now we're getting the ball into better areas. And when you get the ball into better areas, the players you want to take the shots, take the shots. And better things happen when your better finishers, your more attacking players are getting touches in more dangerous areas. And that's something we've done a really good job with. So I would say like Kovac almost like understands like a little bit of the analytical game more, and he's found a way tactically to get us to do better things on both sides of the ball. So I think that's very, very important. But do you guys have any specific tactical things you noticed in this game before we move on?
I mean, in terms of other like tactical things in this game, I don't know if I have a whole lot more to analyze from it. I mean, one observation I suppose I do have is just the players' ability to press. We've definitely seen a bit better pressing this season than in the past few years. And players seem to know their roles. I mean, that's most players at least. I mean, we'll get into that in my dud, but I do think that most players who are out on the pitch, I mean, there is a distinctive strategy that's taking place, and players know what they're supposed to do. And contrasting that with some of the matches at this time last season, where it seemed like our our guys were out there like chickens with their heads cut off, confused about whatever Nuri Sahin was trying to teach them. It's like night and day. So I mean, I mean, like we already kind of touched on. I just think it's all a lot of really positive signs right now.
I guess what I would point to would be both the recycling of ball possession and ball retention, and what happens when we get that possession. Because I feel like in years past, we were more likely to lose possession than actually regain possession. And I feel like in the last few games in particular, you've noticed, or I've noticed a lot of, we're in the opposition's half, we lose the ball, but then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, we're right back on it. Like, the players have been positioning themselves in a way where they've been getting this possession back so quickly. And I think that's allowed for a lot more chances because, they're countering basically closer to the goal. So I think I don't know. I've seen a lot more like positivity with that. And then when it comes to how we recycle possession as well, like it doesn't have to be like in the opposition half or whatever. When we get the ball, we're moving it not just lackadaisically side to side. A lot of it's a lot more progressive, and a lot of it, once again, is a lot more targeted. So it's not just we're passing along the back line or passing back to Greg, and we don't know like what the hell's going on. There's impetus behind it. There are ideas. Players are moving more and creating opportunities for these passes to be a lot more incisive and a lot more clinical, to create chances and just overall be a lot more efficient, which is the word you used, Eli, which I think is also a very good way of describing what this team has been doing. And I think that's been a lot of what's caused that efficiency. There's not as much just like wastefulness. And that's something I've been very happy to see with this team.
Those are really good observations, I think.
Yeah, it's weird. Statistically speaking, we're not winning the ball as much in the attacking third, but we're just not doing a ton of defensive interactions. At least in terms of tackles, because that's all I could quickly pull up on FBref. So maybe we're intercepting the ball more in our attacking third, but like we're just generally making less tackles, which I think is maybe we're intercepting the ball more, we're forcing more throw-ins, stuff like that. And I think like generally like this year, every time I look at the single game statistics and I look at the tackles and interceptions, I'm like, these numbers are so low, which just goes to show that we're controlling the pace of game and we're likely causing more clearances than we have in years past because we're able to control where the ball is going and we're pushing their attackers deeper and deeper into their own half. And so they don't have outballs as much. Like if you remember in the Wolfsburg game, it was almost comical because you had Moamura running in the channels, but he was giving up 10 yards at the start because he was starting so deep. And then you have this guy who's like 5'6" trying to push over our big center backs, who I think the shortest one on the day is like 6'2". All these guys, all three are over 180 cm, whatever it is. Sorry for our metric unit listeners, but basically like you have this guy, and in this game it was Armindo Seed. He had one shot. He'd been coming into this match day averaging like I think close to 4, over 3 per 90. He has one shot, and it's because all our center backs are just chasing down these clearances, but they're starting a bit deeper than the striker because they have to come out and help because we're able to control like where the ball is going. And the only like qualm I'd have is like Cole Campbell didn't come off the bench in this. It could have been Julian Duranville, it could have been him, but we have Celios Shin on the bench, and it just feels like a redundant profile to me. I understand like the squad hierarchy, but you have Joe Bellingham, you have Pascal Gross, you have Karni Chukwuemeka, who can all play in midfield on the bench, and you have Celios Shin on the bench as well. And I just don't really understand that over Cole Campbell because if you want to hear the names of the true wingers we had on the bench, there are none. There's not one winger among that group. And if you want to talk about like the one issue I would have in this match, it's that once we went 2-0 up, we kind of didn't attack. And like I understand that that's going to happen. But once you go up a man, I think like bringing on a 19-year-old, giving him 20, 30 minutes of experience in that, and allowing him to attack when Cole Campbell off the bench this year has looked in his, I believe, only one appearance, but he has shown a lot more end product than he did last year. That's something I get a little bit more excited about, but I do understand it in terms of like squad hierarchy, but that is the one thing I would nitpick from this match.
I think that's fair. I would love to see more minutes from Cole Campbell or even any of the younger guys. Yeah, situation up a man. Totally agree.
Curious to see where Julian Duranville fits in to everything once he's back, because we're not really playing with wingers right now. I think that's also part of the problem. Like, it's more of like a wing back situation, and then you have the front two. But I guess it shifts, right?
Well,
depends.
We've played a front three in recent weeks, and even though like Adeyemi and Maxi Bayer don't play as traditional wingers, you can play a traditional winger there, they're just going to do it a little bit differently. Like, Julian Duranville, I think, has the technical ability and the acceleration to come inside and get the football. He is going to try and drop off a lot more than those other guys, and I think that's different, but I think they can play the same role, just differently. Julian Duranville also has the pace to run behind. I think he like set the training record last year for his speed. Cole Campbell did run in behind a little bit for the second team last year, not a ton. He is genuinely a touchline winger, but I think like if you play him in for Karim Adeyemi, because he does prefer that right wing, then I think like he can play that role. He's going to do it. Like Karim Adeyemi does hold wider because our other wide forward is Maxi Bayer, and he absolutely does not. But I think like he is going to run inside less, but I don't necessarily view that as a problem. I almost feel like it's a problem for the other team because they're so used to Karim Adeyemi's runs. You bring in the different attacker, obviously a ton less skill, so that makes it easier. But it is a different thing that they're going to have to think about and cope with. And Karim Adeyemi has logged a lot of minutes this year, and he's a guy that we've seen play some of his best football when he's regularly getting a little bit of rest, and that has helped him in, at times, play 3 matches a week. And he can't play 3 matches a week for all 50 appearances we may want him to make this year.
Well, I mean, if I can add one thing to that too, I mean, what I at least would like to see is a couple of these guys get some minutes, like Cole Campbell, like Julian Duranville, and I'd like to see them get minutes in a situation where they're not getting minutes because we have an injury crisis, or I don't want to see Cole Campbell and Julian Duranville starting because Karim Adeyemi and Maxi Bayer are both injured from playing too many minutes. I would rather see them more gradually integrated into the squad. Like Eli said, if Duranville can come in for Adeyemi, maybe in like the 75th minute, and start to get a feel for the team and the competitiveness of the Bundesliga, I think that would be huge. And same with Cole Campbell. And those guys are versatile enough that if this front 3 is preferred, they can slot in on either side, and I mean maybe work a little bit more as a winger, cut in behind as sort of like a false 9 almost. I think there's definitely potential, and if we do get both of those guys involved, and then also have Fabio Silva, then Kovac could be looking at least a decent backup to his preferred front 3. So yeah. I mean, yeah.
And Fabio Silva is another guy who may be like a solution there, because if you have Garassi, maybe he can slot into the Bayer role in some way. And like we did see him creatively, he did play a nice pass in this, although
Two
Very
actually.
small, very small. Oh, two.
Mhm.
Okay.
Two
But
almost
yeah,
assists. So we'll talk more about that later.
yeah. Anyway, we'll talk about Niko Kovac's thoughts on this match now. He said it's exactly what we wanted. We wanted to win the match here in Mainz. I'd hope so. As I editorialized there, the team played in a very disciplined and organized manner for over 90 minutes. We scored the goals at the right time. We had a bit of luck with the post, where we then scored our first goal directly. I saw today a team that finished the match the way it should be done away from home. We didn't allow anything more, or at least very little. So I am very happy and proud of the boys that they also rewarded themselves with this performance. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I think he hits it right, or like he hits the nail right on the head. I feel like discipline and organized are very good ways of describing it. Eddie mentions the post. I mean, at the end of the day, it's two teams on a pitch for 90 minutes. Like it's very very difficult to not allow a team to not have a shot. And Paul Nabel is a talented player, so at the end of the day, yeah, they're gonna have chances, and yeah, maybe we got a little lucky there. But it wasn't like we got lucky in the sense like they had five posts or whatever, like because that's what we've seen. We've seen in the past where it's like, yeah, we get away with the win, but it's like they hit the post five times, or like Greg had to really bail us out or something. You didn't really see much of that. And once again, the clinical nature of the goals that we scored, once again, it was very purposeful. Everything was thought through, and that's what I would like to see more of moving forward, because I think everyone showed a level of maturity that I think perhaps the past struggles are finally starting to kind of like, I don't know, I guess teach them the lessons that they need to take from them. I don't know. Like it seems very positive right now, and I can't help but be an optimist.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you just said, and I think, when Kovac touching on the fact that we scored the goals at the right time, I think I was reading a statistic earlier today that was that I think this is the first time that Dortmund has had 10 consecutive Bundesliga matches where they've taken a lead into halftime, and I think just from a psychological perspective, I mean, having a lead at halftime is definitely a big benefit. And the fact that Dortmund has not lost any of those matches. Sure, there have been a couple of draws in the mix, but from having a lead at halftime, not losing, I think is significant. Um, yeah, I mean, it's controlled,
Yeah, and
disciplined.
Four
like we
clean
talked
sheets in
about
a
the
row.
Hmm.
we also talked about the statistics, and the statistics are hurt by the fact we have scored first in every single match this year. So, like, because you score first, the other team is then more prone to be the one attacking and doing whatever. Whereas in like a neutral game state or a negative game state, you would see Dortmund potentially pile on some pressure, pile on shots. We haven't seen Dortmund have to chase these games, have to throw bodies forward. They're doing this, like these entertaining attacking performances from a more conservative game state for them. And I think that's another positive to take away. As we stay in our positive mindset, guys, let's talk about our start of the week. Joey, I think you talked about a couple different people you may want to talk about. I think it was more negative. Maybe you're a negative Nancy, but do you have someone to talk about from a positive standpoint?
I do for start of the week. So this was kind of funny. I mean, I have one name written down in my notebook for dud, but I have four names written next to star. And I'm just gonna go with the first one on the list, and that's Daniel Svensson. And I mean, beyond just the scoring the opening goal, I gotta give this a guy a lot of credit for a couple other reasons too. I think he's played like every minute so far this season. And I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but he's a powerhouse. And there were two different
That is
instances.
correct.
It is cool. There are two different instances in this match where Svensson was like crunched by a player much larger than him. One of those times it was Zentner, where like the camera zooms in on him, and there's Svensson getting flattened by a guy who's probably 80 pounds larger than him, and he just takes it like a champ, and he's got that same kind of grimace that he always has, and gets right back up, and he keeps playing. And I think that kind of mentality is really beneficial. I have a lot of compliments for Jan Kuto's improvement this season, but there are still a few instances where he goes down and starts rolling, and I'm just not sure if he's injured or not. And we see that kind of those kinds of theatrics with so many players in soccer. But Svensson is tough, and I have to admire his tenacity, and the fact that he is well disciplined and seems to just kind of do what Kovac wants him to do. And the fact that his positioning was so well on that first goal that it was it was a one touch, but it was still it was a clean shot. Calm, collected, and yeah, for all those reasons, I'm giving him my star of the week.
I'm glad you went with Svensson, because that's one reason less for me to not feel guilty about not going with him, because there's so many, like you said, there's so many to choose from. It'd be so easy, I guess, to even go with an attacker, right? Because I mean, you had so many good performances. I'm not going to take your boy Eli. Don't worry. You could talk all about him. You could.
I'm going to talk about a different player today, actually. So if you want to take him,
he's the obvious answer. Kareem Adeyemi is the obvious answer, and we can give him an overall thing. I wanted to talk more.
There's a more obvious guy in my opinion, but we'll see who you pick.
I'm going to go on the defensive end of things, because I don't think anyone's going to give him the flowers that I think he deserves. And we were talking about him in the group chat today. Rami Bensebaini. The dude's tackles in that game. I guess I'm a sucker for a good tackle. 7. I'm pretty sure it was 6 or 7. Clean tackles. And I believe one of them was in the box too. It's like, that's crazy. Like, to think that you can just have that confidence, be like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to take you out right here, and I'm just going to take all ball. Right outside the box too. Multiple. The tackles were so clean. And I just love this shift of his to like more of like a left center back position, because at left back last season he did have like a decent run. It was obviously a much bigger improvement to his first season, but the shift into this back three has just been so good for him. Dominant in the air, these tackles are fantastic, and he's pretty damn decent about playing the ball forward too. So it's like, I don't know, it's just like it's such a feel good moment for me to watch him just have such a better performance, or a better string of performances for the side. Because at the end of the day, even when he came in the first season, I was a doubter a little bit. I was like, like, he was good for Gladbach, but it's like, is this really a good signing? But right now, he's really proven me wrong, and I have to give him his flowers, because he's just been doing so well. So,
Brian, do you know who's leading the Bundesliga through 5 match days in progressive passes?
Go on, tell me.
Is it Benza?
It's Bensebaini, and
hey,
over under, how many do you think he is ahead of the second place person by? 15.
15.
15.
Wow. I mean,
over under.
But that just
over under.
Oh,
what
over.
do you think? Is he over or under?
I'm gonna say over. Why not?
Or positive? That's because he is 19 progressive passes ahead of Arthur Theat.
There you go.
19. He is the best in the Bundesliga this season at progressing the ball.
That's because Nico Schlotterbeck hasn't been playing much, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, I'll see when Schlotty takes it.
Even with Nico Schlotterbeck playing, I believe he still has done more in terms of progressive passing in both matches. He did in the Wolfsburg match. I haven't looked at this one, but again, like, that's Mainz. Here we go. Sorry, I almost had it. In this match, he was at much lower numbers than his season averages, but he was at 3. Nico Schlotterbeck is at 1. Nico Schlotterbeck is handling a lot of the long switches, but Bensebaini is getting the ball in between the lines. He's put up 27 progressive passes in one match this season, which is just like absurd. The guy is doing it too. He's like also in like the top 10 in the league for like progressive carries, stuff like that, I believe. So he's having a tremendous season, and I think like we talked about how at left back, maybe he's a bit better as a center back, and I think we've finally started to see that. Gonna see if I can quickly pull up the progressive carry numbers, but progressive passes,
because he plays as a center back for his national team too. So, yeah, I mean, like, he's used to the role.
He is also leading the Bundesliga in progressive carrying distance. by about 190 yards almost.
Wow.
So like over the length of a football pitch, more than the next guy who is Voldemar Anton, because Borussia Dortmund this season has the best progressive anything statistics in the Bundesliga, because Bayern have been a little bit more direct or whatever. Um, it's not like that's hurt them, but we'll pretend that we get the win there. My star of the week is going to be Julian Brandt.
I knew
The last couple seasons, I believe it's 4 straight seasons, 20 goals and assists combined. This season, it looked like he might be moving a bit more to the bench, and that was going to be at risk. But he has 2 starts through 4 games. He also has a substitute appearance in the Champions League. And when you move a player of his quality to the bench, you expect some gaudy per 90 numbers, and he's given them to you. Like last season, he was over zero point 0.5 expected non-penalty goals and expected assisted goals. This season, he's at like 0.8 in the league. He's a little over. He's right around like the output he's given you. He has 2.1 expected goal contributions, but that comes from 1.4 expected assisted goals. He's had 2 assists. He has 0.7 xG, and historically, like one of the top finishers in world football over the last decade, Julian Brandt has obviously 1 goal. In this match, 2 assists, and he was just kind of like a surprise start, but he just made the right decision. He picked out the right pass, and this season, like, there are a lot of people last year who were telling me Julian Brandt was a problem, and I was like, 20 goals and assists, 4 straight years. 20 goals and assists, 4 straight years. It's consistency. Like you can talk about a bad performance away to Kiel when the entire team forgot how to play because they really just wanted Shaheen out. But we'll forgive them for that. And what we're going to talk about is that Julian Brandt is a great footballer, and as much as I want to just say that I'm right over and over again, I think this is a player that we should all just try and enjoy while he's here, because when he plays well, as he has to start the season, it's fun to watch, and that's what I think we should focus on. Is just appreciating football, not getting caught up in the negativity, which I'm trying to be positive this year. I stated that. So Julian Brandt, my star of the week. I think we should all appreciate the quality while we are able to see it. But Joey, let's get into the negativity now. After I gave my speech about positivity, and you said you had a name down for dud of the week. Talk about it.
I do. I mean, my dud for this week has got to be Felix Mecha. I mean, I'm gonna repeat myself from probably a couple previous weeks, but I understand that Mecha does bring some really positive physicality to the pitch, and I mean, he's good for a really stellar strike from outside of the box every now and again. Um, but so often when he's out there, I feel like he's the player who's confused. And in this match, I just felt like every time he had the ball, he was dispossessed or he looked lackadaisical. And like, if I thought I was confused what Nemecha was doing, when he received the ball, I was thinking he looks confused what he's doing. And then it would be a quick pass, and half the time a pass to the wrong team. And I think with everybody in this squad, especially in this match, I mean, I was impressed by most players, but Mecha was one that I was just kind of rolling my eyes at, and I listened to last week's episode, which I wasn't on, and I'm gonna shout out to Pedro because I'm gonna reference your dud of the last week being, I think, Joe Bellingham, and I'm thinking of that now in the context of I'm confused why Job isn't starting, because if Nemecha looked that bad in my opinion, then what's Job doing on the pitch that he's not getting the nod right now? And I have to imagine that Job is definitely seen as a future starting prospect, but I mean I'm ready to bench Mecha after Saturday.
I think when it comes to Nemecha, like I guess the word that I can use is invisible, because I'll be honest, I didn't
Hmm.
even really think about him in this game. And maybe in one sense, I guess that's a good thing, because it just showed how well everyone else was performing. That even an underperformance from Felix Nemecha didn't really uh, bring this performance off the rails. My dud's going to be a little harsh, just because I know he's been
Can I
improving a
talk
lot.
about Nemecha first, Brian?
Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm so sorry.
So
Feel free.
Felix Nemecha has played about twice as many minutes as Joe Bellingham. Which player has more progressive passes? Not the one with twice as many minutes, I'll put it that way. There are some issues statistically speaking and with the eye test. Like I've talked about it before on the show with just the eye test. And now that we have a bit more stats, like they are backing it up. Where Joe Bellingham has a significant issue in terms of his short passing, uh, and like getting pressed. He clearly um needs some time just to bed in my opinion. Like I think he just needs to get used to like it's a lot harder as a central midfielder. There's a lot more moving pieces around you. You're always in a different spot. Whereas when you're a wide player, or a center back, like there's always nothing but there's typically nothing behind you as a center back. You're a wide player, the end line is always there, the touch line's always there. Um Once Joe Bellingham figures out the short passing, because right now he's basically down in the bottom of the squad with just the attacking players. So like your guys like Julian Brandt, Karim Adeyemi, Maxi Bayer, Sergio Guirassy, they're all right around where Joe Bellingham is. Joe Bellingham's in that mix. That's not where you want your central midfielder who's supposed to help you control the game. Once Joe Bellingham is able to adjust and he's able to learn where his teammates are, where his outball is at all these different times, I think he's going to be the locked in starter. Joe Bellingham is attempting 22 more passes per game than Felix Nemecha. I've talked many times on this show. Felix Nemecha is very bad at showing for the ball. It's not something he likes to do. He's not very good at progressing the ball. And he's also down by the bottom in terms of his short passing completion percentage. It is considerably better than Job's right now at about 5% better, but like that's not where you want your number 6 to be, in my opinion. And I don't think it is in Niko Kovac's opinion either, because we've seen more often Marcel Sabitzer has been the one playing that role in bigger matches against Juventus. He's the deeper midfielder. For reference, his short passing completion percentage this year is 94.9%. Like our two guys that are supposed to be playing number 6 are Nemecha, because he failed as an 8, and he failed as a 10. And now he's supposed to be this 6, and he's not able to complete the passes necessary and get on the ball enough in order to play that role. And I think he's moved back into this kind of like box crashing, leggy 8, and I think that's gonna be where he ends up, because that's kind of all he can really do. But I think long term, the club is going to get Joe Bellingham in there. Once he's able to adjust, I think that short passing, those little connections, which defender to get the ball off to, is like the most important thing for me, because when he gets pressed by multiple people, he doesn't know like where his center back is without looking, and I feel like he almost needs to know that a little bit more in all these different situations. And I think like that's the biggest thing. That's what's preventing him from starting. This is not a criticism of Joe Bellingham. He's still exceptionally young. He's barely 20 years old. Like he turned it this past week. So I think that's what we're waiting for, to see him start. And I think that's going to come very soon. And then Felix Nemecha will be on the bench. But the upside of Joe Bellingham is there, and I think it will be there sooner rather than later in the starting 11. But Joey, I do agree with you, and I won't be giving a dud of the week in addition, because I gave that little breakdown, and I hope that provides some good insight for everyone at home. Brian, you can now proceed to slander whoever you feel like.
It's not going to be slander. It's not going to be slander. But I definitely agree with a lot of what you guys have said about Nmecha. The one thing I will say, though, just I guess, since we're on the topic right now, is I don't want to see Job become, I guess, like the six. I don't know if you're insinuating that, Eli, because I think that he can play it. He can do it because he played it for Sunderland in the past. He's done that. But I feel he's wasted there, and I wouldn't want to see him become that. So I think you're right in saying that Nmecha is the placeholder. I think eventually what we'll end up see happening is we will get a six. Because I mean, if Kovac stays for his projected 2027 timeframe, and possibly over if things go well, right? Because we never know. I think he's going to continue to push for that six, and I think we might see more so Job come in as more of that eight. Because like I said, he's not that player, and I don't want to see him wasted in that role, even if he can perform it.
Well, right now we're playing like a defensive 8 and an attacking 8, and I think like right now they're both the defensive 8s for a lot of the matches because you can't play Sabitzer every match.
Right.
I'm kind of like saying 6 to make it, easier to understand because
gotcha.
6 versus defensive 8, but like
gotcha. Yeah. All right, slander time.
I know. So, I'm sorry. Now we're talking about semantics.
Semantics.
You can keep talking.
No slander. I was kidding. I'm gonna go with Jan Couto. Not because I think he was necessarily terrible, but it's kind of like what Joey alluded to. You still see those antics of like where he'll roll around or like he'll pick up a yellow card. It's almost like a foregone conclusion at this point that this guy will pick up a yellow card. Like it's insane. If you're a betting person, like you should bet on that because this is not betting advice, but you should bet on it because it happens so much. But my main gripe with him, I think I'll say in this game is some of the loose passing. Because, he did have that moment that led to Adeyemi's breakaway. But even if you kind of, watch that pass, it's not... That is one of the aspects I would say isn't fully controlled. Because he kind of just, lets it go in the general direction. And the only reason Kareem kind of really got there is because he had the pace to do so, to beat the Mainz player that was coming in to intercept that. So, I feel like with Couto, he's improved a lot. And I'm really happy to see him do so. And I think he's done a lot well this season. I want to see more control from him, and I want to see him, just not misplace those passes as much, not get frivolous yellow cards. I think he really needs to stamp that out of his game, and I think when he does that, I think we'll really see his proper level come to the fore. Because once again, this is a talented player. He offers a little bit of a different play style to Rierson, obviously, so we kind of have that duality there on the right side, where obviously Rierson goes forward and all that, but he's not as attacking as Couto. And having more of that attacking player in that right wing back position is obviously great because, once again, we're not playing with traditional wingers, so it's good to have that width sometimes. But I just feel like he needs to stamp those things out of his game, and I think we'll be able to really see the player that we brought in come to the fore, the player that has the talent to play in a really nice cross or precision ball into the box, because we've seen that he can do that. It's just that we need to see more of it and more of the antics, and less of those just loose passes.
Jan Couto has 2 yellow cards in 5 matches. We are not a betting podcast. Do not put money on that because Brian said so.
I said don't put it on. I said don't do it. I said this is not betting advice. This is not betting advice. But it is a trend with him. 2 in 5 games, in my opinion, is kind of a lot. So.
Yeah, I mean it's not nothing. Also, if you look at some of the defensive numbers, I think he is a little bit under some of the other fullbacks, which is pretty obvious why. Let's see. Other fullbacks, Julian Ryerson is top of the fullbacks. Jan Couto is ahead of Daniel Svensson, though. But like I said before, Dortmund just don't make a ton of defensive actions, so that's a big part of why that is. And also, Jan Couto is a guy who is defensively targeted by other teams, and, he's probably picking up yellow cards because he's defensively targeted for a reason. This is something I said when we signed him. It's a concern whenever you have a 5-5 fullback, because if you have bigger strides and you have a little bit more, like wingspan is for arms, but like leg span, I don't know. Like when someone tries to kick the ball past you, tries to run past you, you can get your foot in, get it over, and just knock the ball out of play, which fullbacks do a lot. Jan Koto can't necessarily do that in the same way as someone who's a bit taller can, and I think that's a bit of a problem, and he's going to need to figure out how to be better defensively in some of these bigger games, or you're going to just see Julian Ryerson start at right wing back in big games, and I think like right now that's kind of where we're at, and it's a little bit imperfect, but yeah, Jan Koto, he's been better. He still has issues tactically for the team, and that's something for Niko Kovac to think about. I could think about it a lot, and I do, but not enough to keep me up at night, and I'm pretty sure that Niko Kovac spends a lot of time thinking about it. Anyway, let's talk about our first preview. Borussia Dortmund faces Athletic Bilbao. Dortmund and Athletic Bilbao have only ever played one friendly, a 2-0 win for the La Liga side. They currently sit 8th in La Liga with 3 wins, 1 draw, and 3 losses to their name. So what are you guys kind of expecting from this match? Obviously, it's all... So tactically, I'm not sure how much Athletic Bilbao you guys have watched, but I have watched them a little bit in the Europa League last year. They're very defensive, and it's a lot of outballs to the pacey Williams brothers, Inaki, and the much more famous Nico, who I did remember second. But regardless, those guys have some pace. It's very defensive. Overall, I think this is a match Dortmund should expect to win, and this is a team that we are better than. I said that about Juventus. We drew, but we were up by 2 goals going into extra time. So, like, we'll see what happens. I believe this is a home match, so it really should be a win. Tactically, is there anything else you guys want to talk about for this one?
I mean, I think the biggest question tactically is going to be how many minutes Sergio Guirassy plays. I know he was in the starting 11 for the match over the weekend, but was not able to participate kind of at the last minute. Sounded like a dead leg in the warm-ups or training, and I think it has been reported that he should be available for Athletic Bilbao. But with the Champions League game on Wednesday and then the match against Leipzig on the weekend, I just think it's a question mark right now of how much Guirassy will feature, and if he's going to be ready to start both games, or if he's going to be on the bench and like the player to come in at the 65th minute or something. I think that might be up in the air. I expect him to start if he's fit, though. Otherwise, I don't know how much different the tactical setup is going to be. I mean, the Sabitzer Mecha seems to be the preferred the preferred double pivot. I do think we're a bit overdue for a Pascal Gross start, but I also wonder a little bit about how much pace he can maintain, especially against the Spanish teams that tend to bring a lot of agility on the counterattack. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest question is going to be Guirassy. I do expect we're going to either do the front 3 if he's fit, or if he's not fit, then I wouldn't be surprised if it's a similar setup to the weekend, with Brandt kind of back in the 10.
I think with the back 3, like, I'm not too much worried about the pace in their midfield. That comes with being limited to signing players from one specific Basque region. But yeah, I think like Pascal Gross is actually a really good option to start against a deeper, more defensive team, because you kind of get just the control there in midfield from him. So that's a very good shout. I'd like to see him start, whether that's like alongside Sabitzer, playing in like a little bit more of a reserved role, or maybe even a Joe Bellingham in this match, and we can see if he's ready for a big moment. Because Dortmund have done that in the past. But Brian, is there anything you want to talk about in this match?
I think, especially considering you mentioned they're more like defensive way of playing. I think it is going to be a test for Dortmund because, like, even if you look at this Mainz game, right? Like, Mainz came at us, gave us the opportunities to counter. This is a team that, if it's more defensively set, well, then you don't have as many of those opportunities to use that pace from Adeyemi in the same way. And that's where I think like Girassi will function and a bit more importantly in this game and factor in more importantly because you have his aerial prowess. I think there's going to have to be a lot more balls into the box, and you need a player to be able to feed off that. So having Girassi there will be very helpful. I think with the midfield, yeah, you can make some substitutions. I mean, you're going to have to because like you can't gas these players. You have to give them a rest. And with games like Bayern and Leipzig coming up, I think some rotation in this game will be good. Because at the end of the day, I think this is a game like of all the games that like this is a hard run we have in the Champions League. We do not have an easy run by any means. This is one of the games that I would consider quote unquote easier. So I do think that it'll be important to get a win here. Not even like, oh, whether or not we do, like it's important that we do. But also I think the mention of Girassi being important in this, I think he will factor in heavily in this. And I think we have to get the goals early so that we can take him off. We can give him that rest. And then we can bring in a Fabio Silva or whoever it is that starts.
Would you consider starting a Fabio Silva? Because you talked about like that aerial presence, so that's
possibly
another big striker you could bring in. He's gonna have some experience.
He has La Liga
last season with Las Palmas, and then if you take an early lead, that would allow you to bring on the pace of Maxi Bayer, force Serhou Guirassy, get him some rest at the back end of this game when maybe you have a little bit more space to run into. That is a thing to think about, but also like getting the lead matters more than anything.
Right.
So would you consider starting Fabio Silva?
I think honestly starting him and Girassi together, I think because we want to see a little bit how they play together regardless. I think this is a good game for that. Silva has also shown in this game in particular, he's shown a more creative side. We kind of talked about it. He almost had 2 assists in this game. So I think they could complement each other well, and having both of their aerial ability, having 2 strikers in there, that could pose that threat from that thing. I think, or from that perspective, I think would be a good shout. So, I mean, we'll see if Niko Kovac is in line with our thinking, but I do think that is a good shout, yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I would, but I don't hate it, because I think, like, Maxi Bayer has been, like, he's still searching. I almost feel like he's a like-for-like swap with Guirassy. I feel like he's been at his best almost when he's not been on the pitch, although he wasn't necessarily at his best in this one. But I think the attack was better without Guirassy in this match, because it just created some freedom for some other guys. But we'll see, because Guirassy is a very good player, and like there is a consistent goal threat, as much as it may not be my preferred aesthetic football idea, but that's
and he keeps people occupied. That's the thing. So I think from the other side, it could allow space for like a Silva or someone to come in and have a potential impact as well. So it is something to think about.
He draws the defenders because of that goal threat.
Yeah, absolutely. I just don't love that like striker that is like so shot hungry that like everything gets funneled into them. It's purely an aesthetic preference for me. But we do have a match this weekend, probably the most difficult match of our young campaign. So we play Advertising FC. They sit on 12 points. Borussia Dortmund are on 13. They are on a 4-game win streak after getting absolutely throttled by Bayern Munich in a hilarious game to open the season because they fold against serious competition. And hopefully they'll fold again this weekend. But what do you guys... Oh, sorry. I forgot. I'm messing up the flow of the show. But quick score prediction. Just give me numbers and we can go on to talk about advertisers. For Bilbao.
3-1 to us.
I'm going 3-0 to us.
I'm going to go 2-1 to us, with us conceding a consolation goal late on. So anything that you guys are expecting from the advertisers in our next match?
I mean, I think there are a couple reasons that this one is going to be really tough. To me, the biggest difference right now between Dortmund and Leipzig are that Borussia Dortmund are playing in the Champions League, and I don't think Leipzig qualified for any European competition
Oh,
last
they
year.
did not. They did not.
Uh, so so they are going to be, I mean, fully fit. I mean, they won't have the fatigue of a midweek match. But thankfully, this is going to be a couple of consecutive home games for Dortmund. And I think playing Leipzig is going to be a big test of this side and of Niko Kovac tactically, because Leipzig is a good team as much as we dislike them. Since they've been in the Bundesliga, they have been a consistent threat and are usually pushing for the top four. And the fact that they don't have to play in a European competition midweek, I think is going to give them a little bit of an advantage in terms of fitness. Um, that being said, I do think if we can get a good win in the midweek, then Dortmund will have some momentum. Things have been going pretty well. If Karim Adeyemi can stay fit, then I think he can continue to just make life difficult for any defender that he's going up against. Um, but yeah, I mean, Eli mentioned that thrashing at the hands of Bayern at the beginning of this season, and I was very hopeful that that was a precursor of things to come for the downfall of Leipzig after much of their squad was raided, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Um, I
Joe,
mean, well,
you want to hear a funny football thing?
yeah.
So in their first match, they conceded 1.7 expected goals to Bayern Munich. They conceded 6 goals. Since that match, they have conceded five, 6.7 xG in those 4 matches. How many goals have they conceded in those 4 matches? Just one.
Just one. So it's catching up to him.
Yeah.
That is a funny stat.
That is hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they are pretty open at the back. Brian, do you think we'll be able to get a few on them?
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, listen, like, this is a team that does have talented players, like, as much as we like to poke fun at them for obvious reasons. I think that, this is a team that is dangerous. Johan Bakayoko is settling in decently for them. We know he is a dangerous player from his days in the Eredivisie. Romulo Cardoso came in. He's got 2 goals, I think, as well. So I think, like, they have goals coming from different places. So that means there's a lot of different outlets for them to utilize, and I think Dortmund will definitely have to be alert. But once again, I do think this is a team that we can obviously very much beat. We're very efficient this season. We've got our stuff together, and I think that Leipzig is not on the same wavelength as us, and I think that this is going to be a very winnable game. It's a home game, and it's important that this is going to be a real test for us, right? I think it's important that we stamp our authority on it, show that it's not just and I'm not saying this lightly. Like, Mainz is very much a decent team. We're not just beating the Mainzes of the Bundesliga. We're beating the third team in the league right now, and then going on to take that confidence onto the next game, which we'll talk about on our future episode against the Big Bad Empire. But
yeah, like, this is not. They haven't been around very long, but this is not the Leipzig of your youth. Like, usually you might say, like, this is not your father's XYZ. Like, this is not your father's Borussia Mönchengladbach when they were dominant in the 80s. This is not, like, when I was in high school and Leipzig, the advertisers were pretty good. This is not the same team. Like, if you're looking at the names and ages in the back line, like, Willy Orban's still kicking about, but he's now approaching 33. You have Lukeba, who's defensively, like, an interesting profile, but has not necessarily performed very well. Perigulashi's still somehow there, but is now at the wrong side of the age curve for the goalkeepers at 35. Their midfield is still all over the place. Like, Jan Diomande is 18. Like, 2 years ago, he was playing high school soccer in the US, and he's an incredible prospect, but is he a great player yet? And that's a lot of what's going on in Leipzig. And I think that this is a game that Borussia Dortmund should convincingly win at home. At home. And I think that I understand we're playing in the midweek and all of that, but this is a game that Borussia Dortmund should be winning. Their midfield is still being figured out. They brought in Banzuzi. They sold some guys out for whatever reason. Kevin Campbell's no longer or hasn't played a minute yet this season. He was their most effective player probably in the midfield last year. Seewald's starting. He's not necessarily translated the per 90s he had last year when he was coming off the bench. Javier Slager's still gotten 3 starts this year. This is not a team that should necessarily scare you as much as they are just like a competent side. So I really think there's no excuses not to win this match at home.
0.
Yeah.
So score predictions. I'm gonna go 3-1. Brian?
I'm gonna go ambitious for this one. I'm gonna say 4-1, simply because I think we're far more efficient than them, and if we want to compete with Bayern, we got to put a substantial amount past them too. So keep the tradition going.
Joey?
I'm gonna go 2-0. Thinking that this is a side that finished behind Mainz last season, and we're home. I don't know. The 2-0 just feels like a good number.
Okay, and so I think we have 3 topics that we're gonna try and roll through pretty quickly. So the first 2 I'm gonna roll into one, and that's Nico Schlotterbeck and Karim Adeyemi being linked with contract renewals in recent weeks. Nico Schlotterbeck said of this, BVB is my first point of contact. I can basically imagine staying here longer. Various sources have reported this. Quickly, how excited are you guys? 1 to 10. I think we talked about this last week too, so go quickly. Adeyemi and Schlotterbeck, 4-year deals. How excited are you?
About 72.
If it happens.
72.
Okay.
Yeah, 100 out of 10. Sign them both. They've.
Yeah,
those 2 players are. Yeah, they're the future of this club right now, and I would be fully confident signing both of them for another 5 years.
Yeah, the only contract extension I can think I was excited to see was Julian Brandt in the last 5 years, and I talked about 20+ goal contributions, but I think Karim Adeyemi over the next 4 years could really be looking at numbers that are in the 25 to 30 range, which is a whole nother level to talk about. And Nico Schlotterbeck is even better. Obviously, you can't talk about goal contributions the same way with pure numbers like that,
Yep.
but these 2 contract extensions are building the core of a side that we have not necessarily seen steps to achieve at Dortmund in a few years. Next up, we have we talked about Garassi, so we're going to skip that one. We have the Matisse Albert watch. He has, I believe, 7 goals and 5 assists in around 7 appearances so far for the U19s, split between 3 competitions, including a hat-trick this past weekend. That statistic is 100% accurate. The other one is based off my recollection of looking at his transfer marks page yesterday, so take it with a grain of salt. But anyway, more talk has arisen around the prospect of the American talent and when he should get a start in the first team. Keep in mind, he is just 16 years old. Niko Kovac said on the topic, the development is there, but it must also be consistent. If he continues like this, his future will surely be bright. How excited are you about this prospect? And have you watched any of him? Do you expect to see him in the near future? Give me those 3 things really quickly.
Would love to see. I mean, I would love to see him brought up to the first team for a match or 2 this season. I don't necessarily anticipate he will see many minutes. I think if we are lucky and the talent is there, then maybe he will get a Bundesliga debut by the end of the season. I'm very excited about having a young prospect with the youth sides. And somebody who also is American is exciting to me. Have not watched a lot of him outside a couple of highlight reels, but everything I have seen, everything I have read seems to suggest that This guy is a really special talent, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah, I'm in line with Joey on that. I think the highlight reels have been enough to excite me at this point, and I do think that by the end of the season, if once again he's consistent per what Kovac said, I think he deserves to get his start in the Bundesliga. So
Yeah, I think if there's like an injury to an attacker, you might see him make the bench a little bit earlier, but I'm kind of just tracking what they've done in the last couple of years with your Cole Campbells, with your Kiel Watyens, where it's right around that winter break. The top U19 players get invited to go train with the top flight team. And after that is when they have the chance to impress, and you can look a couple months later and they'll make their debut. Next up, we have Borussia Dortmund interested in Club Tijuana and Mexico talent Gilberto Mora.
Gilberto, I'm sorry, that's me misspelling. It's Gilberto. Excuse me.
Oh, sorry, Gilberto. That is entirely Brian's fault. Like he said, I appreciate you setting me up to fail. Anyway, the attacking midfielder is valued at 4.5 million euros and has 3 goals and 1 assist in 8 appearances in Liga MX, with 2 goals in the League's Cup. I believe, who was it that was talking about watching the LA Galaxy play his team this past summer, and how Marco Reus was trying to tap him up, allegedly, because we have actually no information on making up that part. I think he just spoke to him after the match. Was it you, Joey?
It might have been. I think this was a guy who I think he went up to Marco Reus and requested his jersey like before the match. So I mean, there was something that happened, I think, where after the match someone asked for his jersey and he was like, no, Marco already asked for it. And I think I recognize that as something where, like, okay, if Marco Reus thinks this kid is talented, then there's probably something there. Personally, I haven't seen him play, so I can't really speak too much on that, but I trust Marco's judgment.
Yeah, I'd say the same. I think to be so young and to already be contributing for the first team, I think that bodes or speaks well on his behalf. So I think this is very much in line with the type of transfer that Dortmund has been looking more to do. I mean, we've seen that with some of the players that we have waiting in the wings, coming in now from South America and all of that, and obviously this being central, but same general region. I like the fact that we're looking in these regions of the world because it's not something we've seen as much of. And if he is as talented as he is, or as he seems to be, I say bring him. Why not?
Per Instagram sources via a cursory Google search, Marco Reus did request his jersey, not the other way around. Instagram sources, so take it for what it is. But yeah, so that's very exciting. I haven't seen this kid play at all, but with some of these young players Dortmund signs, like, you're going to have guys that have whatever elite talent at whatever level, but they're not able to translate it to a higher level, or develop whatever it may be. Maybe they struggle with injuries, a la Julian Duranville, whose contract is expiring, I believe, this summer. But I think it's like worth the gamble, because when it pays off, you have like Gio Reyna, who put in a very good 6 months before he started to deal with some injuries. And you can have guys, I'm trying to think of it, like Jamie Gittins or Jadon Sancho, who the club has invested in at 16, go on to do big things. And I think we're all a little excited, because the Ecuadorian kid we signed 18 months ago, Justin Lerma, has looked well in some highlights I've seen from like the U17 World Cup, and he'll be coming in next summer. I think like this transfer doesn't prevent you from doing anything else, and we always talk about innovating and looking for those next markets. There is a guy who was at Hammarby about 18 months ago and is now playing for Hoffenheim in Bazumana Torre, I believe, who's looked very bright to start this year. Still a very raw prospect, but has been starting regularly for them for about like 9 months now, and like came in for 750k. It shows that value's out there, and if you look at Dortmund's first 11 and didn't look at anything else, you might not realize that value is out there. But hopefully Dortmund is able to start looking in places that are a little bit more underserved and find players that they can develop into the next generation of stars. And if this guy is a big Marco Reus fan from that one interaction, maybe he's a guy that wants to play the rest of his career here and is able to promote this club elsewhere, and that grows the fan base and brings success because he's so talented, and that allows Dortmund to have a golden age of dominating the Bundesliga. That's the dream. So I think that's pretty much all we have on that topic. So let's quickly go into the top 5 of our Bundesliga fantasy players. We have Christ Beam, Superfractionalistic something, it's cut off. We have Bissek and Bauer, Junior Intelligente, and Pints of Bayer rounds out our top 5. So DC,
welcome back, Pints of Bayer.
BVB and DC stays represented in the top 5. Let's go. But yeah, that'll do it for us. Stick around. We have a quick chat that we had before the episode to give you guys. But before that, is there anything you guys want to plug?
I do have one thing I would like to plug. First, a couple shout outs to Borussia Dortmund's New York City office for a little bit of help. And also, if any of you know, big face in the North American scene of Dortmund is a guy named Tilo, also giving me a hand here. But we are launching Borussia Triangle, which is going to be a new Borussia Dortmund fan club supporters group in the Research Triangle area of North Carolina. So if you live in Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, or any of the surrounding areas, our bar for watch parties is called the Boot Room. It's in Durham, and our first formal watch party is going to be on October 18th for the match against Bayern Munich at 12:30 Eastern. So I will I'll give this plug again next week, but really hope to see some folks turn up for it. Again, if you live around the area in North Carolina, or if you feel like coming on a little road trip, it's a fun bar, and there's a great barbecue joint right across the street.
Shout out Tilo and shout out Joey for heading this up. This is exciting.
It is.
Stuff. With regards to myself, I don't really have anything to plug right now. Life has not allowed me to write the way I usually do or have been over the past years. But I will be getting back to some GGFN stuff coming in October. So look out for that. But obviously, follow us on the pod wherever you can, wherever you listen to us, wherever you take in our content, be it Blue Sky, wherever it is. Just follow us everywhere. Rate us 5 stars.
Yeah, so I'd highly recommend checking out the BVB U19 highlights against Juventus. Matisse Albert forces an own goal. He also, I think, has an assist and a goal in that. The highlights in that are truly incredible, as I believe Dortmund won that match, and I think their average age was about 2 years younger than the Juventus squad. Genuinely incredible to see, essentially our JV team absolutely hand it to a bunch of much older Italians. So that was pretty exciting because last year we did struggle a bit more than we have in years past in the U19 Champions League, and we off to a great start. But that'll do it for us. Thank you guys and have a good one.
Jadon Sancho to score. No mistakes this time.
That is a rocket.
Royce and another fantastic goal by Marco Reus. Haaland's volley is beautiful beyond
Jetzt
compare.
kommt das Wunder von Dortmund. Foulspiel von Inzo an Götze.
Needs to lay it off. We're going to shot away. Oh, what a goal!